Shalom, shalom, shalom. Yisrael, Yehonathan, we with you here on what they call the 20th of March, first day of spring, I believe that's what they say. And that was the rebirth of the Passover song. You can find them, I found them on YouTube, Rebirth Passover song. And this offering today is going to be our Pesach offering. And you can follow me at my home office for the Unleavened. I do about 5 minutes. You can find me on Facebook for the Unleavened blurb. I give about a 5 to 7 minute blurb on that. But Pesach, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to talk about when the actual Pesach begins and how we do the timing of it. I'm going to give some Pesach secrets that you're not hearing out there, but straight from the word of Yahweh. Now, how we do this is the new moon, remember, we talked about this, was on March the 1st. Now, using my two dumb thumbs on my smartphone, you can see that it actually started at 6:25, from 6:25 a.m. to 4:52 p.m. That entire time was the new moon. Estimating the Abib, this is an estimate, the Abib was on 3/8 at 9:36 a.m. That's an estimate because according to the Torah, you need a visual witness of the Abib from Eretz Yisrael, not from anywhere else on the earth. So that's an estimate. Now the full moon was on March the 17th. Using my dumb thumbs on my smartphone, I saw that it was started from 6:44 a.m. to 7:15. Well, 6:44 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. That's when we had our full moon. That was the official beginning of Pesach. Pesach is when Yahweh passed over us. That was on the 17th. And this is our Pesach service. Let's begin from Exodus 12:1 and 2. Exodus 12:1 and 2 reads, Now Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aharon in the land of Mizraim, saying, This month will be your beginning of months. It will be the first month of the year to you. So Yahweh just changed, because you know what, he has the power and authority to do that. He created time for our sakes. He changed the beginning of the year to the sighting of the Abib. And we're going to see why. The beginning of the year, this year, was on March the 17th at 6:44 p.m. according to the word of Yah from Exodus 12:1 and 2. Now it happens to be the first day of spring today. Now, Yahweh did make provisions for a second Passover should we miss the first Passover for just a few reasons. I'm not going to go into that. You can go into the book of Numbers, chapter 9, verses 1 through 14 to see the parameters of having missed Pesach. Yahweh made provisions for a second Pesach. Our Jewish brothers are separating Pesach on April the 15th. Now, if you look at that, April 15th, that means that someone was to miss that Pesach. The second Pesach will be May the 15th. Now you're talking about close to summer. There's a big problem out there all across the world without those in Hebrew uprising and come to your knowledge of different days of celebrating the Pesach. It's critical because from the Pesach you start counting off for the rest of the feast days, the rest of the appointed times. So Pesach is critical to getting right. Keep in mind though, as we've been saying here for years, we are practicing. We are not in Eretz Yisrael. We're not in the Kodesh land. And so we cannot actually keep it. As a matter of fact, every year you have rights to keep the second Passover, because one of the parameters of keeping second Passover is being too far away to keep the first Passover. So y'all made the provisions to keep the second Passover a month later. We are all here on the sound of my voice, well, in the Baltimore area, but this is across the world, this broadcast. My wife was listening to me from Africa a few years ago. But basically, we're over here when we have rights to keep it the second Passover, but that will be on May the 17th. I mean, April the 17th. Now, Yahweh says in Deuteronomy 16, 1 through 8, I'm not going to go there, but Deuteronomy 16, 1 through 8, that we are to keep the Pesach wherever he puts his name. Now, obviously, then, that was in the land of Israel. We have since been dispersed all across the world. And how then do we justify keeping Passover? Is this where Yahweh has placed his name? Well, let's go to 1 Peter 2, 4 through 8. 1 Peter 2, 4 through 8, and it reads, "Coming to him as to a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by Yahweh and precious. You also, as living stones, are being built up as a spiritual bayet, a spiritual house, a Kodesh priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Yahweh through Yahweh HaMashiach. Therefore, it is also contained in the Torah. Look, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he who believes on him will by no means be put to shame." And reading verses 7 and 8, "Therefore, to you who believe, he is precious, but to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. They stumbled being disobedient to the Debarim, to which they also were appointed." So we being a chosen priesthood today, the name of Yahweh is not in a building of stone and bricks and mortar or whatever, or even a tent. It is in your body for those who call on the name of Yahweh HaMashiach. Resides in you. As such, even if you, as the head of the household, even if you are a woman, as the head of the household and you have no man authority over you, then you, the Yahweh's name is in you. You are to keep Pesach according to the word of Yah. Now, hopefully you're under a leadership, some headship, a preacher. Is best to have a preacher to be under him and be under the leadership and his direction to follow in this. But if not, we still must, here in the land of captivity, keep Pesach and the unleavened bread service. Let's go to Ezekiel 45, because we're going to talk about how Pesach transcends space and time. Ezekiel 45, 21 to 25 is talking about this millennial kingdom, okay? Ezekiel 45, 21 through 25, and it reads, "In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, you will observe the Pesach, a feast of 7 days. Unleavened bread will be eaten. And on that day, the prince will prepare for himself and for all the people of the land a bull for a sin offering. On the 7 days of the feast, he will prepare a burnt offering to Yahweh, 7 bulls and 7 rams without blemish daily for 7 days, and the kid of the goats daily for a sin offering. And he will prepare a grain offering of 1 ephah for each bull and 1 ephah for each ram, together with a hin of oil for each ephah. In the 7th month, on the 15th day of the month, at the feast, he will do likewise for 7 days, according to the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the grain offerings, and the oil." So we see here, and Ezekiel identifies the one doing this as the prince. This is going to be Mashiach, the anointed one. So even during the millennial kingdom, this is to be followed. Now here's something that's deep. I'm going to give you something deep, because remember, next week we're going to go back into, we're going to really dig into Daniel and Revelations. All of this has meaning. If you go to Psalm 118, 22 and 23, and I think I want to go there. Let me go ahead and read that. Psalm 118, 22 and 23. And it reads, "The stone which the builders have rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was Yahweh's doing. It is marvelous in our days." Now this chief cornerstone, it says the builders rejected. Have you ever thought about who the builders are. The builders are going to be, this is deep, what I'm giving to you, and we'll go into it in Daniel Revelations. This is Esau's seed. And we know it's Esau's seed for a lot of reasons, but one of them, it says clearly right here, without having to study Hebrew or anything, it is the stone that the builders rejected. Yahushua is the cornerstone. All of the feast days point to Yahushua. He is our groom that's returning. Who out there is rejecting the cornerstone? Who out there is keeping Pesach extant of looking at the Abib? The Abib speaks to the first fruits. We're going to go into that. So if one does not believe in the object of this whole feast day, then obviously they're going to get it wrong. They're rejecting him, the whole purpose of it. The whole purpose of it points to Yahushua HaMashiach. Let's, again, and if you follow Yahweh for Christians, you've already heard me read this, but this is overlooked by, I haven't heard anyone else talking about it, to be honest with you. Yahushua is the evidence. He is the Pesach. Pesach only deals with him. But let's go to John 26 and 7. Because today, the reason I want to read this verse is because today is the third day of his entombment. So tonight, when you light your candle, if you're following, you light the candle, you'll be lighting the fourth candle. And it's sometime in the wee hours, we don't know the exact time, is when the resurrection. So sometime tonight in the wee hours while we're sleeping will be the resurrection. And all this matters only if Yahushua resurrected. And it only matters if he, after having resurrected, was clean and pure and then accepted. This is critical when I'm getting right what I'm saying. Let's go ahead and read John 26 and 7. John 26 and 7, and it reads, Then Simon Peter came following him and went into the tomb and saw the linen cloths lying there, and the handkerchief that had been around his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded together in a place by itself. Why would Yahushua take the time after resurrecting, taking off the linen cloth and folding it? Well, it was lying to the side, but the one on his face he folded and put it to the side, the bloody cloth. Why did he do this? Well, that's because Yahushua knows the Torah. He is the Torah. You get the understanding to this. This is why I spent 54 weeks teaching the parasha portions. 54 weeks. Anybody who followed me those time is going to know more than someone else who doesn't even read the Torah portions. We didn't learn the Torah portions so you can try to get into the kingdom by following 615 commandments. We did the Torah portion so you can understand how it all points to Yahushua, including this. Because if you go to Deuteronomy 22, verses 13 to 21, it talks about the unfaithful bride and how you prove that she was unfaithful or not in her father's house. Because if the sheets were bloody, she indeed was faithful. If the sheets were not bloody, they were clean, then she was unfaithful. She had played the harlot in her father's house. So what Yahushua is showing here at the resurrection in John 26 and 7, he showed the bloody cloth, that he was indeed innocent. He was a virgin. He did not do anything wrong in his 30 plus years on the earth. He was innocent. And this is deep. You should get goose pimples thinking about this. How Yahushua showed himself to be the innocent virgin bride, replacing us, who we cannot say we are innocent. Yahushua then offered himself as the wave offering. This is deep. Let's stay right here in this chapter. See if you're hearing this anywhere else. Verses 13 through 15 in this same chapter. Then they said to her, this is Miriam, Woman, why are you weeping? She said to them, Because they have taken away my master, and I do not know where they have laid him. Now when she had said this, she turned around and saw Yahushua standing there, and did not know that it was Yahushua. See, Yahushua was in his perfected body, more bronze. You have to look into get my book, The Color of Man, to understand what he looked like. What he looked like when he was walking the earth, and what he looked like after he came resurrection. Those two different looks. So she saw Yahweh, she was standing there. Verse 15. Yahweh said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking? She, supposing him to be the gardener, that's deep there, said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away. Now, think. Yahweh gave you a brain to think now. Why would she think he was the gardener? What was Yahweh doing when she saw him over there, not too far from the tomb? What was he doing that made her think he was a gardener? Yahweh had the implements of the wave sheaf offering. He was offering himself as the wave sheaf and the heave offering, and Yahweh accepted him. Yahweh sniffed him up, smelled him, and found him pure and innocent. What was in Yahweh's hands? It was the wave sheaf. It was the Abib. He is the first fruits of the resurrection. This is why you cannot be celebrating this a month later. When all the wheat is grown up, there is no fresh green ear at that time. There is none. What you're saying then is that Yahweh is a regular man like anybody else. When he brings in the sheaves, bringing in all the regular people to be saved, he's just like anyone else. But he is not. He is the first, the beginning. And that is when you are reborn, when you are born again. You are refreshed, renewed. And we're going to find out why some of you people are confused, because they're using the language of slavery and they get confused. Miriam witnessed Yahweh offering himself up as the wave sheaf offering. And he had the olive branch. Yahweh's olive branch of peace offering to us is his son. This branch that he had in his hands was it then withered back down to the branch from the Garden of Eden that Adam and Eve ate from. I've shared with you the whole circle of this whole branch. That's why you have to follow this broadcast, follow this ministry weekly. Just briefly, that branch that Adam and Eve ate from, that branch was falling to the ground. Yahweh's not going to let something tainted go back to heaven. And that is what Adam used to till the ground, and it matriculated. We talked to you about from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, all on through, all down the line to David, who planted it on the Mount of Olives, to King Hezekiah, who took off Nehushtan. Remember, Moses put a snake on that thing, and it stayed there, and we started worshiping it. Hezekiah removed it, and that's when it grew into the almond tree on the Mount of Olives. Remember, Adam's rod that budded, this was it. Why did it have almonds and olives on it? Because it was an almond tree on the Mount of Olives. Yahweh dies on that. Once he died on it and was entombed, it fell back, withered back down to the original branch that it was in the Garden of Eden. Yahweh raises up after the third day and takes that branch and waves it. He reconciled us to himself. Do you not have tears and cheer bumps on this? This is the eternal Yah before the foundation of the world. Victory in death and the resurrection, the third day resurrection by Yahweh HaMashiach. You must love this man. And we must be looking forward to him. Looking for him daily. We look to him. And we keep these days for that purpose. Leviticus 23, 10 and 11 talks about the first fruits. I'm not going to go there because I have a lot of scripture to go through. Read Leviticus 23, all of it. But it is the first fruits, and then we must get this right, because in verses 15 to 22, we see that we start counting then the Feast of Weeks. And then from the Feast of Weeks, you get the Feast of Trumpets, and then Atonement, and then Tabernacles. But it all begins from the Abib, which this year was on around the 8th of March. The beginning of the year. That was your Happy New Year. Not January 1st. And anyone who's doing differently is denying Yahweh Shua. That means you are wasting time. What are you keeping this for if he is not the object of it? So it cannot be April 15th. There's nothing new in April 15th. You had a whole month of growing. The wheat and that barley and everything has been growing by that time. And then the second Passover will be May the 15th. You're close to summertime. You have Hebrews who were celebrating this thing last month when snow was out there. Last year, there's a Hebrew group that was celebrating Passover. There was snow on the ground. Moshe said, in everything there has to be two witnesses. Moshe's two witnesses against us is heaven and earth. So you have the moon as a heavenly witness, and then you have the Abib as the earthly witness. Heaven and earth testifies of this. We're going to go into this. Yahweh says in John 5:39, search the Torah, because in them you think you have eternal life. But in them they all speak about me, from cover to cover. He was telling the Hebrew leaders, the scribes and the Pharisees, who were not Hebrew, that they search those scriptures, line upon line, precept upon precept, line upon line, precept upon precept, and they stumble on it because it was given to them for stumbling. Because they, in all that reading and eyes getting dull and their hearts getting dull, they did not see Yahweh in it. Yahweh is the Pesach. Pesach is not a day, it's Him. He is the Passover sacrifice. And the Abib speaks to the first fruits of the dead. We come later. That's why there's a second Passover for us who are not in Israel. The second Passover represents Ephraim. It represents us scattered throughout the world. Yahweh is the first fruits, and then we all come later. He has reconciled us to Himself. Yahweh offered His Son as the olive branch, a peace offering to us. Yahweh became sin for us. But with the bloody cloth, He proved Himself to in fact not be sin. He was a virgin. That's why He folded the cloth there and put it to the side as a testimony to His innocence. Yehonathan Dawid with you here, Yahweh for Christians, on WFPR 1590 AM. Check me out on YouTube and follow me and learn something that you're not hearing from anywhere else. Psalm 47:8. Yahweh, this is Dawid speaking under the influence of Ruach HaKodesh. He says, in the scroll of the Torah, it is written of me. In all of this book, in the entirety of it, it speaks to Yahweh HaMashiach. Yahweh said Himself in John 1:51 that we're going to see Malachim ascending and descending on Him. This speaks to the dream that Jacob had in Genesis 28:12. Everything ascends and descends on Him. I've been saying since the beginning, Yahweh is the X-Man. He is, everything goes through Him. This dream that Jacob had in Genesis 28 was a genetic dream. The word that we have in English for ladder, the Hebrew word is sulam. Sulam is the only time in the entire Bible, if you will, that you see this word. It is a genetic word. I guess today we would call it deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. It is sulam. That means Yahweh is coming to His people are genetically connected to Him. Genetically. Everything else is mankind. Remember, when we go into Daniel and Revelations, there's only two kinds of people. Man and mankind. Man after the image of Yahweh and mankind after the image of Hasatan. Psalm 89:35-37 talks about the moon as the faithful witness of this sacrifice. Yahweh died under a full moon. You cannot get a full moon if you're trying to count from a crescent. Crescent is Islam. New moon is a zero luminosity. And I taught that in deep detail last year and year before last. I'm not going into that this year. Look into it. It's on the YouTube channel. Go to it. See, here is the marking of the Pesach. The new moon is the heavenly witness. The Abib comes about 7 days later as the earthly witness. Then, 7 days after that, you have Pesach, which happens under a full moon. And see, by the Pesach beginning at this time, it assures that some Abib is available. If it's too early, there'll be no Abib available. If it's too late, then it'll be all ripened. See, after Pesach starts, you have the counting of the Omer, which is 3 days later, which we are in the 3rd day now. And then you have the first ripe sheaf, and that is Yahushua. That is the resurrection time. And then the first day after Shabbat, which is always a Sunday, the day after Shabbat is a Sunday, then you begin counting for the Feast of Weeks. 50 days. So this day is critical. You cannot go by a slither. See, it takes about 2 to 3 days to even see a slither. Because during these times, there was no magnifying glass or telescope. You had to use your eyeballs. And it takes 2 to 3 days to see a slither. From new moon to full moon is 14 days. If you want to use your dumb thumbs for your smartphones, it's really 14.765 days. So Yahweh has 2 days of that's his business. You cannot box Yahweh. You cannot pinpoint him and hold him and peg him down like that. Yahweh has some playtime, some wiggle room in there where you are living by faith. You are observing and following him by faith. Because remember, Hasatan is watching this too. Hasatan is the one that Yahweh is playing chess with. It's really not even us. We just get in where we fit in. This is really Yahweh's answer to Hasatan from the beginning, when he said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And Yahweh beheld him and threw him down to this earth like lightning. This is all an elaborated answer to Hasatan. All these thousands of years, everything is a chess game with Yahweh and Hasatan. So Yahweh has 2 to 3 days, or really you can't pinpoint him down. Because Yahushua's return is going to be on one of these feast days. Remember, Yahushua says you do not know the day and the hour. You do know the day, but you're not going to know the hour. Let's give you it in plain English of how this is counted. 1 Samuel 20. 1 Samuel. Then I'm going to go into the Hebrew of how you can determine when Pesach is, and then unleavened and all the rest of the days. Please read all of 1 Samuel chapter 20. The backdrop is the covenant between Dawid and Yehonathan. When Dawid is running from Shaul, who's trying to kill him. So they meet in the field, and they make this covenant, this pact between themselves. And Dawid is going to hide in the field under the cover of darkness for 2 days. And it was on the 3rd day that Yehonathan is going to come out to meet with him and let him know whether his life is still in danger or not from his father, Shaul. So the story, I'm going to read verses 5, 18, 27, and 34. But you read the entire chapter. I went into detail into this 2 years in a row. I'm not doing it this year. But it was perfect for Dawid to hide during that time because there was total darkness under a new moon. Starting at verse 5. And it reads, And Dawid said to Yehonathan, Indeed, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king to eat. But let me go, that I may hide in the field until the 3rd day at evening. Now, go down to verse 18. And it reads, Then Yehonathan said to Dawid, Tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed, because your seat will be empty. So now we have a slither day, and then the next day it is dark. It's all dark. Verse 27. And it happened the next day, the 2nd day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Shaul said to Yehonathan, his son, Why has the son of Yesse not come to eat either yesterday or today? Okay, now we got 2 days. Now the 3rd day, all right? Let's go down to verse 34. So Yehonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and ate no food the 2nd day of the month, because he was grieved for Dawid, because his father had treated him shamefully. Now what we have here, if you count these days and read the whole narrative, you find that the conjunction, that's what they call it today. The feast day began on a waning conjunction. All right, a waning conjunction. The one thing about the moon, first of all, is the faithful witness. It is called in Psalm 89. It was a full moon at the sacrifice of Yahushua, so it was a witness. It was witness to it. But secondly, that it reads like the Torah. The moon goes from right to left, just like when you read the Torah. We're reading here in the language of slavery, reading the Bible from left to right. But the Torah reads from right to left. So does the moon. As it goes from right to left, it is waning. It is waxing, getting stronger until it's complete. When it is waning, it's still going from right to left. So we find that if you read in 1 Samuel 20, that we have a feast day beginning at the end of a waning, what they call conjunction. And it lasted 2 days under zero luminosity, which was perfect for Dawid to hide. This is the same as Yahushua being hidden in the earth right now today. He was in his second day hidden under the earth. He's going to come out at the end of the third day. So sometime tonight while you're sleeping, I plan on getting up sometime in the middle of the night to offer praises and prayer to Yahushua and praise to him. He comes up. Let's go to Hosea 6:2. A scripture, another one I'm sure you have not considered. And I'm sure you have not considered. I don't see anybody else talking about this. Hosea 6:2 looks like a prophet. Like a prophet. And after 2 days, he will revive us. On the third day, he will arise us up, that we may live in his sight. Let us pursue the knowledge of Yahweh. Now, I'm not going to read further, but I'm reading that to show you that Hosea, remember, the whole narrative of Hosea is us as the whore bride, okay? As having sullied ourselves, and Yahushua is still reconciling us and bringing us back. And what he's saying is, Hosea is prophesying that we're going to be hidden for 2 days, just like Yahushua currently is in his second day of hiding here in Unleavened Bread right now. This is his second day. Sometime tonight while you're sleeping, I suggest you get up sometime, maybe around 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and praise Yahushua, because that's the resurrection time. Be thankful for him, because now you have eternal life in your rebirth. So it's the same thing. A day to 1,000 years is 1,000 years to a day to Yahweh. We now are in our third day as a people all over the world. We have awakened. And if you follow me, I told you that happened around 2008, based on the prophecies in Ezekiel, that around 2008, and also Leviticus 26. If you follow me, go back to a couple of the broadcasts, in Ezekiel and then Leviticus 26. We were hidden for 2,000 years. And we're going to go into this in detail in Revelations and Daniel. And now at 2008 is when this great Hebrew awakening happened. It happened, this great increase of knowledge. The increase of knowledge has nothing to do with inventions. The increase of knowledge is all about Yahushua. The knowledge of Yahushua has increased. Right now today, you get on your smartphones and click in what is the name of God, and Yahweh pops up. So what is Hosea saying in 6:2 is that now pursue the knowledge of Yahweh. Pursue it, because now is the enlightening time. This is our resurrection. It began around 2008. The whole world, you got the Hebrew movement, you got Jews for Jesus, you got Messianic Jews. Everybody all over the world now, Christianity is really shrinking. People are accepting Yeshua, Yaharallah. They are coming out and increasing in knowledge. Not the knowledge of inventions, but the knowledge of Yahushua. That's what it means. Now, remember this, we got out too many of our Hebrew brothers, because you're just coming out, you're new brews. You're new brews. I said many times, please just give some respect to a brother who's got 42 years on this. I'm not a new brew. Came out long before the internet. But the new brews are out here keeping this, counting from the slither. And that's from Islam. That's not Ibarit. That's not Hebrew. You do not count from the slither. Yahushua said in Matthew 24:36 that no one's going to know the day and the hour, but you will know the day. You should know the day. Remember the 5 wise virgins and the 5 foolish virgins. So have your oil lamps trimmed and ready. You're going to need a lot of, you're going to need the holy oil, if you will. You're going to need to have it, be ready. For those who live on the earth, they will not be ready. They will not be ready. But the wise virgins were ready to come in when the bridegroom called, because you're not going to know the exact time when he's coming. Although I did tell you the exact time he's going to come. The moment you draw your last breath, it's the second coming. So you must always be ready. The moment you draw your last breath, it don't matter whether Yahweh Shua comes a week from now or 1,000 years from now, a million, it's going to be the same to you. Because when you wake up, you're either getting judgment or grace. There's only two things you're going to get. There's only two things. So today, you don't know when you're going to draw your last breath. You need to be ready. Now, I gave you in 1 Samuel 20 how you can count the how the new moon is a zero luminosity. But let me give it to you in Hebrew and give you a clear understanding of a verse that people are getting wrong. Because you know why? Because we're reading it in the language of slavery. You got everything you got now in the language of slavery. Let's go to Psalm 81, 3 and 4. Psalm 81, 3 and 4. And this is I'm going to give it to you in the English that they have it. And then we're going to read it in Hebrew. The key words anyway. So in Psalm 81 verses 3 and 4, and it reads, blow the shofar at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our solemn feast day, because this is a statute for Yisrael, a law of Elohim, of the mighty one of Jacob. So you say, you got a full moon and a new moon. How you gonna? What's going on here? Well, in the language of slavery, you don't get the understanding of this. One thing I've been saying for years. Remember, the words we're using, they deposit into your brain an understanding that's foreign to the original milieu that it came from. The milieu that this Bible comes from is Hebrew. That's the environment, that's the backdrop. So you're going to be missing and you're going to be out of touch when you read it in English and receive it in the English thought. One of those, I gave you many examples, but one of them is the word new. There's not in the word month and the word moon. They all give us a meaning in our minds and our heads that has nothing to do with what the Hebrew mind is thinking. They don't have a word for month as we say it. It is refreshed. It's renewed. And the way I said, I gave you the numbers for a brand new Corvette. I think what I did it last year, 2021 Corvette, and how much it cost. I think it was like about $80,000. And then for the original Corvette that has been refurbished and renewed, I think it was 1968 Corvette was more valuable than the brand new Corvette. And why is that? Because how many thousands of Corvettes are being made every year all over the world? But once a Corvette is made, they cannot make another 1968 Corvette or 1969 Corvette, whenever the first one was made. They cannot make any more of those. But you can still get them and refurbish it and renew it. And that's what the moon is. The moon we had today is the same moon. It is not new. It's refurbished and refreshed. And what is being refurbished? What is being refreshed? Out waiting for the bridegroom. He didn't come this day. Okay. Every month is a new looking forward to him, a new longing for him, a new looking out the window for him. He didn't come, so now you're waiting. It's a refreshed covenant of awaiting for him. Now, the word used in Psalm 81, 3 and 4 is bekase. Okay, the word is kese. Kese means to cover or conceal. Bekase means at the concealment, at the covering. So if you're covering something, you don't see it. If you see it, it's not covered, or at least not fully covered. But in Psalm 81, 3 and 4, Dawid is saying that the moon is covered. It is kese. That's Hebrew word 3677. Hebrew word 3677, kese, look it up. It means to cover or to conceal. Conceal means to hide. Now the word actually used here is bekase, which means at the concealment. At the concealment, Hebrew word 3680. The next word that's being used in here is chodesh. Hebrew word 2320. It's what we call new moon or new month. But what does it really mean in Hebrew? The root word is 2318. It means renew, rebuild, renew, rebuild. That means renew or rebuilding of what? Of our looking and longing for Yahweh Shua. Yahweh told David, look for my face, seek my face. That's for us to look for him, seek him. It is a renewing. It is a refreshing. It is not a new moon as we think it is, and is not. So let's read this, reread this as it should be read and understood. Blow at the time of the Kodesh, which we call new moon, the trumpet at the Beit Kaseh, at the concealment of what? Of the new moon. So the the opening line says, blow at the time of the what we call new moon, and it says the shofar at Beit Kaseh, at the cover or concealment. Original words gives you original truth. Original words gives you authentic truth. The original words is Kodesh and Beit Kaseh. That means new moon, as you call it, and means concealment on the day of our solemn feast, because a statute for Israel that is a law of the mighty one of Jacob. Psalm 81, 3 and 4 shows you specifically that the new moon is zero luminosity if you read the original Hebrew words, as I just give them to you. Look at the words. Hebrew word 2318 if you have a Strong's Concordance, but you have a smartphone, you can find it then. Hebrew word 2318. That is a renew or rebuilding. The Hebrew word 3677 means to cover and conceal. That means the moon is concealed. It is hidden. It is covered. It is zero luminosity. You cannot see a new moon. If you see anything of that moon, it is not new. It is not new. Well, the new moon is, like I said, it's like a classic 1969 Corvette. It is refreshed and renewed and is more valuable than a brand new Corvette, even though it's decades old. The new moon, which is the faithful witness in the sky, is a refreshed moon, the beginning of a new, what we call month. That's how Hebrews mark time. And it's critical because the marking of the time is for the purpose of reuniting with Yahweh Shua HaMashiach. That's the whole point of time. Time doesn't matter except what you're doing with it. What are you doing with your time? Are you just spending it trying to get as much money as you can? Get as much work or women or money, whatever, gaining things of the earth? That's what 7 times in the book of Revelations Yahweh is condemning those who live on the earth, because they ain't marking time for Yahweh Shua. And we got our other brothers who's keeping Pesach on April the 15th. Where is the new Abib? Where is the Abib? There's no Abib on April 15th. And certainly not on May 15th. And there was none in February the 15th. In wintertime. Get this right. Not to blast. Listen, I'm not saying this. No one is to laven up their chest against your brother, your sister who's getting these days wrong. Do not laven up your chest. Please. Do not do that. It is to educate you, because we can't keep it correctly anyway. This is why Yahweh Shua came and lived and died and resurrected for us. He is the Torah. We go through Yahweh, through him. The veil was rent, and boom, what did you see? Either you saw Yahweh Shua or you saw 613 commandments. Which one are you taking? In the millennial kingdom, when that next temple is built, huge, large, they're going to be keeping the 613 for 1,000 years. But what happens after the resurrection of Hasatan? Are they going to seek salvation through what their good lives they had for 1,000 years, living perfectly, or are they going to see that it is a baton to be handed off to the reception of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach? When the veil is rent in your resurrection, are you seeing the face of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach, or are you seeing the 613? Which one? Which one? I suggest you seek the face of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach and let his righteousness get you in. Yahweh accepted Yahweh Shua as the wave offering and heave offering. Now, here's one thing, some knowledge I dropped on you also. At the Garden of Eden, remember, Yahweh declares the end from the beginning. Everything goes into a full circle. They sinned with 4 of their 5 senses. With their sight, their hearing, their taste, and their touch. All four of those senses that Yahweh gave us, which was supposed to be to magnify Yahweh, were used to fall and sin. The only sense that was not used to sin was our sense of smell. During the entire beguilement of Mother Hawa and Adam, who chose to partake of the fruit, he was not tricked. Neither one of them used the sense of smell to sin. They used look, touch, taste, and feel. They did not use the sense of smell. That's the only sense that was untainted that was not used in the fall of sin. Yahushua comes out of the grave innocent, which is why he puts up the sheet and folded it to show you that it was bloody. So he was a virgin. And he offers himself up, and then Yahweh sniffs him and smells him. It says, untainted, and received him. He received Yahushua's sacrifice. This is deep, and it's touching to even think about this. How Yahweh, who he says in Isaiah 46:10, declared the end from the beginning. In the Bereshit, I told you, you cannot get this in regular English. The first word of the Torah is Bereshit. In English it says in the beginning, but it's not deep in English. Bereshit has the letters of Ibarit. The first letter, the Beit, speaks of Yahushua. How Yahushua is the foundation of the home, and Yahweh is, through his son, is revealing himself, his creation, to him. He's revealing himself to his creation through Yahushua, who's going to sacrifice himself on a tree. That's all in the first letter of the Torah. It's all right there. Look at some of the old YouTube channel offerings I have out there for you to get to more detail. This is all from the beginning. Yahushua is the X-Man. Nothing matters that we do unless he is involved in it. He is a foundation. He should be the foundation of our homes. And the revelation of Yahweh happens in the home. The revelation of himself to his creation. His creation is made after his image. In Daniel Revelations, we're going to see that there is going to be man and mankind. Man at the image of Yahweh and mankind at the image of Hasatan. I told you how that happened. How did Hasatan's image get to be in us? How did the corruption happen? It happened at the Akedah of Father Abraham about to sacrifice Yitzhak. He had his hand going across the throat, and the Malach stopped his wrist from cutting his son's throat. Yitzhak representing Yahushua's willing sacrifice. Yitzhak was a 30-year-old man. He knew what was happening. Yahushua was a 30-year-old man. He willingly sacrificed himself on the tree. But unlike Yitzhak, Yahushua was not spared. With Yitzhak, Yahweh withheld Abraham from slaying his son. Our ticket of salvation was in the thicket. Our ticket was in the thicket. The ram was found in the thicket as a replacement for Yitzhak, because the ram was Yahushua. You should be crying now, because Yahushua, what he did for Abraham, he did not do for his own son. He did not hold back the knife from slaying of his own son. Yahushua, who allowed himself to be sacrificed willingly, an innocent man, proven by the bloody cloth that he folded to the side. So disheartening and hurtful was this, that at 12 o'clock noon, at the strength of the sun, from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, as we call it, the sun was hidden. The whole world was dark. The whole world was pitch black. There was no light anywhere on the earth for 3 hours. As Yahweh hid what was going on. That is something that only can be known between Yahweh and Yahushua. Azab Tani, Yektiyahu Eliyahu Shali Lama. My father, why have you forsaken the unity of Yah? Where are you? You are forsaking the unity of Yah. He did not say what you're reading in the Bible. He did not say that, which is a mixture of Latin and Greek and a little bit of Hebrew. 3 different languages in there, what you see in the Bible. What he says, what I just said just now on this mic. And what happened is beyond what the created mind can know. For those 3 hours of darkness, it is beyond what the created mind can even know. What Yahweh Shua is saying, you are forsaking me. What did I do wrong? What he said was, it is just like the pounding of the Rekaya. The Rekaya is the dome over the earth. The dome over the earth. When Yahweh, he pounded that and pounded that and pounded that. And made the dome that covers the earth. It was pounded and pounded and pounded. This is what Yahweh Shua was saying that Yahweh is doing to him. You are pounding me and pounding me and pounding me and pounding me. Why are you forsaking me? Why are you doing this to me? What did I do? What did I do? I'm innocent. I did nothing wrong. Well, the proof came 3 days later with the bloody cloth, and then after he walked around and offered himself as the wave sheaf offering. This is, and Yahweh sniffed him and smelled him and received it and received him. This is why we must get this right. But if we don't, we should be only a day or 2 off. We should not be a whole month off. We should not be a whole month off. And even then, we can be a month off because we are not in the land of Israel. We cannot keep this. This is why we must receive the grace of Yahweh Shua. Yahweh Shua said, worship him in spirit and truth. So we do worship him in the Ruach, in the spirit with energy and fervor and happiness. But we also must have truth. And this is why now we have unleavened bread. Because unleavened bread represents truth. No leavening of other faiths and ideologies and religions. No mixing in of other religions. This is the time of unleavened, of unadulterated, pure worship of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach without leaven. This is why we remove it out of our homes. It's just a symbolizing of how we're removing all things, even things that are fine to have. Like I said, nowadays on keeping unleavened bread, we have so many choices, the things that we can eat. That's you don't really miss eating regular food. They got all kinds of fun things and cookies and snacks and chocolates that you can eat that are kosher for Passover and unleavened bread. But because this is really our 3rd day of sadness, I really don't partake of those things. I eat the regular things, and that's just a suggestion. Really, in these 3 days after Passover, we should be somber and contrite. It's like 3 days of atonement, if you will, of really being somber, because this is the time. Remember, we didn't have the knowledge then as we have now. They're like, what happened? We thought he was the Messiah. We thought he was going to come and destroy the Romans and we get our land back and Israel be on top of the world again. But that's not what happened. It is going to happen in its time. So at that time, they thought they were defeated. They thought it was a loss, 3 years of loss. They thought that the Messiah didn't come. They were sad and depressed. But we know the other side of the story. We know of the resurrection. But at that time, in real time, they were sad. They were depressed. They were bewildered. They were befuddled. What happened? We thought he was. They did not see that the object of their love and desire and their hope of their eternal life was going to die like that. Or not just die, a gruesome death. A most gruesome of deaths. He was marred. His visage was marred more than any man. No man in the history of the universe was ever marred more than this. He indeed looked like a serpentine snake. By the time they finished beating him up, and by him being so dehydrated and shriveled up and feeling cursed, feeling the amen curse, by that time he indeed looked like Nehushtan, which Moshe had put on that rod. That's what he looked like. Nehushtan that Moshe put on that rod. Those who would look on that rod for reconciliation by keeping the laws of Moshe will receive good and long life. Those who look to that rod to see the grace of the sacrifice of reconciliation will receive eternal life. I think eternal life is better than good life. All the promises given for the 613 were good, but they did not last forever. Land and wealth and health are good, but it is better to have eternal life. So the counting of the Abib establishes Rosh Hashanah, what they call Rosh Hashanah, the head of the new year. The Abib establishes the head of the new year. And it's to be, and then 10 days later, you get your lamb. Because we are supposed to get to know the lamb, to get to be friendly with the lamb, and then we end up killing the lamb, which shows ourselves as being betrayers of the lamb. We befriended the lamb for 4 days, and then we betrayed him. On the 14th day, when we kill him at twilight, which means that around 3 o'clock. And then we roast a bitter and unleavened around 6 o'clock. And on the 1st and 7th days of Holy Convocation, we eat unleavened bread for 7 days, no mixing. Next week, we're going to go to Daniel Revelations. Shalom Aleichem. Peace be on you.